Flippy Switchy Galaxy was the first level I ever made in branches. It's heavily inspired by those levels in Mario where jumping flips panels between red and blue states. When you start the level, it very quickly asks the player to jump in order to progress, which ends up naturally teaching the player that jumping toggles the red and blue blocks. I made sure that there's a decent stretch of them with no gaps so the player can test out the mechanic in a safe area. After that, the player is tasked with making some simple jumps between these switching blocks. Eventually you'll arrive at this red platform with a blue platform above it, and normally a double jump would be required, except that a double jump puts the blue state into the off position, which means you can't land on the platform. This teaches the player that sometimes you might have to backtrack or approach something in a different way in order to progress. After some more teaching of how the player can utilize their jumps, they go up these fans into a little climbing section. This is where you'll encounter your first win token, where you have to set the blocks to the blue state in order to jump up to the blue platform, which gives you enough height to get the win token. The first checkpoint comes shortly after that, and then the level starts focusing a little more on pokers, which are these enemies that can target you, but they can also be used almost like single-use platforms by jumping off of them. After that, there's another climbing section with springs where the player has to strategically flip the block's states. And then there's another small part with a staircase where the player has to carefully decide whether to single jump or double jump to avoid falling. Then the player is shown the second win token, although it's out of reach for now. Once you deal with these pokers, you can utilize one of them to jump over to the platform where the second win token is held, and then you can go back to get the second checkpoint. The player can climb this tower using double jumps, and then they'll come across the finish line, except it's blocked by some green blocks, and the only other way is left. After making a few more jumps that are notably tighter than the ones at the beginning of the level, you'll see this bug, and by jumping you can lower it down to hit the yellow switches. By keeping a rhythm and getting up these yellow platforms, you'll see the green key on the left, which is protected by some pokers. After getting that, you can also take a detour to the third win token by carefully lowering down this poker and jumping off of it. After that's done, you can go down another tower by flipping the block's states just a few more times, which drops you off right at the finish line.